Welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. Welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. This is Earl Purdy, and we're going to talk about seeking and finding. Here on Facebook Live, we're going to talk about seeking and finding. So let's start out. Let's continue with the theme song for A Course in Miracles. We call it "We Are One" by Brother John Christmas. Here we go.
Oh, we are one.
Welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. This is Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you. We're going to be talking about seeking and finding. We're going to be doing seeking and finding according to the Course in Miracles. So open your mind. This is hardcore. I'm going to be sharing what the Course in Miracles is saying that will free your mind, that will begin to move you in the direction of having exactly what you want. Here we go. You and me were not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it. Know that we are one. Oh, we are one. Yeah, we are one. Oh, we are one. I am you, and you are me. That was Brother John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. If you want to get that music, that was John Christmas at johnchristmas.com. Woo! I'm so glad to be here with you, and we're going to continue with the Course in Miracles. I hope you have your Course in Miracles book. I hope you have access to it, because we're going to be in the Foundation for Inner Peace version, the Blue Book, and we are going to be in Chapter 12, Section 4, Paragraph 1. Chapter 12 is the Holy Spirit's judgment, your loving right mind's judgment. Now, to make the Course in Miracles more conversational and easier to understand, after 40 years of sharing the Course in Miracles, I want you to realize that the Course in Miracles will allow you to get rid of all the anxiety, concern, and worry that's going on in your mind if you use it correctly. The Course in Miracles is always working on our perception first and foremost. The Course in Miracles is giving us correct perception. It's giving us another way to look at things. And the Course in Miracles says you need to remember that you don't need to believe the ideas. You don't need to accept the ideas. You don't need to even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. This is Earl Purdy. I'm so glad to be here with you. So glad, my mighty companion. Remember, some of the ideas you may resist. Some of the ideas in the Course in Miracles you might resist. Some of the ideas in the Course in Miracles you might find hard to believe. Some of the things that I say from A Course in Miracles you might find hard to believe. You're not being asked to judge the ideas at all. You're not being asked to analyze the ideas at all. The Course in Miracles says their use will give the ideas meaning to you, and using the ideas in the Course in Miracles will show you that they're true. One of the things I really want to emphasize after teaching and learning the Course in Miracles for over 4 decades is that the Course in Miracles does not need my interpretation of it. What I need is the Course in Miracles interpretation. So please turn, if you got the book, you're going to turn to page 223. Page 223 in the Course in Miracles. Page 223. I love to work out of the Course in Miracles book. I've read this book over 100 times, from cover to cover. And every time I read it, I can feel the veil lift, and I remember more about the truth of who I really am. The Course in Miracles talks to you as if you are a spiritual being. The Course in Miracles talks to you as if you are not a human being, but a spiritual being. That you are a spiritual being that has a body. So the Course in Miracles is going to talk about seeking and finding. And the Course in Miracles calls the part of us that wants to be separate and the part of us that thinks we're separate the ego. The Course in Miracles says the ego is the fearful man. It's the guilty part of the man. So when the Course in Miracles talks about the ego, it's talking about the part of us that's been programmed by the world. The part of us that thinks it's separate from God. The part of us that thinks we're separate from each other. So the very first thing that the Course in Miracles says on page 223, the section Seeking and Finding, says, and I'm going to do this in a conversational way, working with the book. Now the Course says the ego is certain that love is dangerous. So there's a part of the mind, there's a part of a person's mind that thinks that love is dangerous. There's a part of the mind that thinks love is dangerous. If there's some part of you that thinks you could be hurt by love, then that's the same part of your mind that thinks love is dangerous. Some people, they become really afraid when someone says, I love you. So there's a part of the mind that thinks love is dangerous. So the Course in Miracles definition of the ego is the part of the mind that is certain that love is dangerous. And this is always the ego's central teaching. So what is it that the ego is trying to teach us? What is it that the part of us that is certain that love is dangerous, what is it trying to teach us? It's trying to teach us that love is dangerous. Now, your ego never puts it that way. He says the ego never puts it this way, that love is dangerous. It says, on the contrary, everybody who believes that the ego is salvation seems to be intensely engaged in the search for love. So everybody that believes that being separate is the key to happiness, the Course says, is intensely engaged in the search for love. That minds that are fearful, minds that think they're separate, minds that think they're guilty, they're all engaged in the search for love. So there's a part of our mind that wants to teach us that love is dangerous, but it's also the same part of the mind that's always has a person searching for love. Everybody's searching for love. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody's searching for love. So then the next line, what does the Course in Miracles say? It says, yet the ego, though encouraging the search for love very actively. So there's a part of the mind that's afraid of love, that's searching for love actively. And the Course says, but when your ego makes you search for love, when the part of you that doesn't love you, or the part of you that's afraid, or the part of the mind that's guilty, or the part of the mind that thinks it's separate, the Course says, when that part of you searches for love, it says, it makes one proviso: don't find it. So I want you to hear, would you like to hear what the Course in Miracles just said? Try not to analyze it. Try to just hear what the Course in Miracles has just said to us. It said that there's a part of your mind that thinks love is dangerous. There's a part of your mind that would have you intensely search for love. But that same part of your mind that's trying to get you to search for love is also going to make one little proviso: don't find it. So the Course in Miracles is saying to us, that there's a part of the mind that dictates to you, I want you to look for love. Love is dangerous. I know you think it could hurt you, but I really want you to search for love. And I'm going to just make one little condition of you searching for love. Seek and do not find. So the ego is the part of the mind that has one rule, which is seek and do not find. It's the part of the mind that says, seek love, but don't find it. Look for love, but don't find it. Desire love, but don't find it. So there's a part of the mind that encourages us to look for love, but that same part of the mind tries to make sure we don't find love. And the Course in Miracles says that's the ego. That's the ego. So the one promise that your ego is going to hold out to you is seek and don't find. And the Course in Miracles says that's the one promise that your ego is going to keep. That's the one promise that your ego is going to keep. So what is the one promise that the ego is going to keep? The one promise that the ego is going to keep is you are going to seek and not find. You're going to seek love, you're going to seek joy, you want to seek happiness, but it's also the part of your mind that says, I want you to seek it, but I'm also going to make sure that you don't find it. He says, that's the one promise that the ego holds out to you, and that's the one promise that your ego will keep. What is the promise that your ego is going to hold out to you? Seek and don't find. Seek and don't find. So let's keep it simple. There's a part of my mind that loves to seek and not find what it's looking for. There's a part of the mind that loves to seek and not find. There's a part of the mind that wants you to seek love, seek joy, seek happiness, and not find it. Everything is created from the mind. Everything is a projection of the mind. Everything is a perception in the mind. So whatever you see is being projected or extended from your mind. So there's a part of your mind that has fear, anger, guilt, and separation thoughts in it. That part of the mind believes that love is dangerous, but it also says, even though I'm afraid of love, even though love is dangerous, I want to go out and find it. But that same part of the mind also says, I want you to seek it and not find it. And that's the one promise that the ego holds out to you. That's the one promise that your ego is going to keep. For your ego pursues its goal. And what is the ego's goal? Seek and do not find, with fanatic insistence. And the judgment of your ego, even though it's severely impaired, your ego has severely impaired judgment. The fearful part of your mind has severely impaired judgment. The part of the mind that has guilty thoughts and angry thoughts, that's the ego. That part of the mind has what kind of judgment? Severely impaired judgment. So what does that tell us? Well, I want to tell you that there's a part of your mind that has severely impaired judgment. There's a part of your mind that pursues things and never finds it. There's a part of your mind that teaches you love is dangerous, but it doesn't really put it that way. Actually, the part of you that believes love is dangerous is the same part of you that's always seeking love. But here's the trick. The trick is you're going to seek for that happy relationship and never find it. You're going to seek for that love and never find it. You're going to seek for that abundance and never find it. Why? Because there's a part of the mind that has the goal of seek and do not find. And there's a part of the mind that consistently tries to make sure that you don't find what you're looking for. Okay, now let me give you some tips. Rather than try to figure that out, rather than try to analyze that, what are you going to do? You're going to just stay aware that according to this, there's a part of your mind that searches for love. There's a part of your mind that thinks love is dangerous. There's a part of your mind that wants to make sure that whatever you try to find, you don't really find it, that you seek and not find. That's what that paragraph wanted us to hear. And then in the next paragraph, chapter 12, section 4, paragraph 2, it says, the search the ego undertakes is therefore bound to be defeated. And since the ego teaches you that it's your identification, your ego teaches you that it is you. In other words, the ego tells you you're the one that's separate, you're the one that has fear, you're the one that's a body. The ego is the part of your mind that tells you you're the one that has fear, you're the one that has guilt, you're the one that has anger, you're the one that has worry. But the Course in Miracles is saying, no, that's not you. You are calm, you are whole, you are full of love, you are full of light, you are spirit, you are eternal. The problem is you're not identifying with your real self. What you're identifying with is the part of you that thinks that you are a body, the part of you that thinks that you are separate, the part of you that has fearful thoughts, the part that has guilty and angry thoughts. The Course in Miracles says that's the ego. So the search the ego undertakes is therefore bound to be defeated. And since the ego teaches you that it's your identification, what happens when you are following the ego? How can you tell when you're following the wrong guide? How can you tell when you're following the wrong voice? Well, it says the ego's guidance leads you to a journey which must end in perceived self-defeat. So how can you tell when you followed the advice of your ego? How can you tell when you followed the advice of your fearful mind? How can you tell when you listen to the wrong voice? He says, well, you feel defeated. You feel like you failed. You feel like you didn't get what you wanted. So whenever you're feeling depressed, whenever you feel defeated, whenever you feel like you didn't get the happiness and the joy that you want, that's how you know you were listening to your ego. You were listening to the fearful, false voice. The Course in Miracles is trying to teach you the difference between when you're listening to the voice for God, when you're listening to your true inner guidance, and when you're not. The Course in Miracles is letting you know that you can tell when you're following the wrong guide. You can tell when you're following your ego, because when you're following your ego, you seek and you don't find. And when you're following the ego, it says it right here. It makes you feel like you are experiencing self-defeat. Because the ego searches for love, the ego wants love, but it says the ego cannot love. So the ego is the part of the mind that believes it's separate from God. The ego is the part of the mind that has thoughts of guilt, thoughts of fear, thoughts of separation. The Course says that part of you, that mind, cannot love. Your ego cannot love. The ego cannot love. The ego can't love. The ego can't love. The fearful mind can't love. Fear is not love. So the fearful mind cannot love. The mind that's full of fear cannot love. Love is going to come from the part of your mind that is love. Love is going to come from the part of you that is love. Love comes from love. Fear comes from fear. So a mind full of fear cannot love. A mind that's full of fear cannot love. It says it right here. It says, I love this stuff. It's so good. I told you this is hardcore. This is hardcore. So the Course in Miracles says the ego cannot love. The ego cannot love, and in its frantic search for love, the ego is seeking what it's afraid to find. So a person that's full of anger, guilt, or grievances, or insecurity, that person is seeking for love, but they are afraid to find love. So whatever you seek, but you have a fear of receiving, then you're going to seek it, but you really won't ever find it. The reason why you won't find it is because you are afraid to find it. You see, if I'm afraid of love, but then I go, I really want to get love. I really want to be loved. Ooh, I wish somebody would love me. I really want to extend love, but I'm really afraid of love. I think love is dangerous. I think love could hurt me. I've been hurt by love in the past. So I think love is dangerous, but I still think I really want love. So I'm going to be one of these people that's out here searching for love, but I don't know why, but it never seems to work out. I never seem to find it. And that's what the Course in Miracles is saying. It's saying that love, the ego is seeking what it's afraid to find. The search is inevitable. It's inevitable that you're going to search for love because the ego is part of your mind. And because the ego is part of your mind, your ego is not totally split off from your mind, or your ego couldn't be believed. So wherever you say ego, you could say fear, or you could say fearful mind, because that's what the Course in Miracles defines the ego as. So let's say it another way. The search for love is inevitable because the fear is part of your mind, and because of its source, the fearful thoughts in your mind, they are not totally split off, or the fearful thoughts in your mind couldn't be believed. What does that mean? Just what it says. You believe your frightening thoughts, you believe your fearful thoughts because they are part of your mind, and you believe things that are part of your mind. You believe things that are in your mind. So that's why we believe the ego, because the ego is a thought in our mind. And it says, if the ego wasn't a thought in our mind, then we wouldn't believe the ego. We wouldn't believe the fearful thoughts, but the thoughts are part of our mind. So if you have the ego, people say, I want to get rid of my ego. I want to get rid of the part of me that fights the truth. I want to get rid of the part of me that thinks it's separate from God. I want to get rid of the part of me that searches for love, and then I'm never successful at receiving love. That's the ego. That is the part of the mind that believes that love is dangerous. The ego is the part of the mind that makes you look for things that you never find. So the Course in Miracles says, for it is your mind that believes in the ego. It is your mind that gives existence to the ego. So the ego comes from your mind. The fearful thoughts come from your mind. The happy thoughts come from your mind. All your unhappy thoughts come from your mind. Depressing thoughts, they're coming from your mind. Peaceful thoughts, they're coming from your mind. Thoughts of abundance, they come from your mind. Thoughts of lack come from your mind. The ego is in your mind. The Course says it is your mind that believes in it. It's your mind that gives existence to it. So it's your mind that believes in fear, and it's your mind that gives existence to fear. It's your mind that believes in separation. It is your mind that gives existence to the idea of separation. And so the Course in Miracles says it's also your mind that has the power to deny the existence of the ego. It's your mind that has the power to deny the existence of your fear. It is your mind that has the power to deny guilty thoughts. It's your mind that has the power to deny frightening thoughts. It's your mind that has the power to deny what you have been conditioned with and what you've learned in the past. It is your mind that has the power to deny the ego's existence. So when will you deny the existence of fear and separation? When will you deny the ego's existence? The Course in Miracles says, I'll tell you when you're going to actually deny the ego's existence. When you realize exactly what the journey is on that your ego has set you. When you realize the journey that guilty thoughts and fearful thoughts send you on. When you realize he says, when you realize the journey that the ego sets you on, which is a journey of seeking and do not find. Seek and do not find. When it says, when you realize exactly what the journey is on which the ego sets you, follow along with me in the book. Chapter 12, section 4, paragraph 2. I'm at the sentence that says, yet at the bottom of that paragraph, yet it is also your mind that has the power to deny the ego's existence. And you will surely deny the ego's existence. You'll stop listening to your ego. You'll stop listening to your fear. You'll stop listening to the part of your mind that wants you to seek and do not find. That's the ego. He says you'll stop listening to that part of your mind when you realize what it's doing to you. See, we keep thinking the way we have always thought until we realize what that thinking is doing to us. So if there's a way of thinking that a person wants to let go of that's not really serving them, that person is not going to let that thinking go until they see where that thinking is leading them. It's when you realize exactly what the journey is that your frightening thoughts and wrong thoughts are setting you on that you will let them go. So a person won't let something go until they see clearly that the direction that they're going in will not get them what they want. See, a person doesn't stop doing something because it makes them feel guilty. I'm sure you've done a lot of things over and over again that you have felt guilty about. So just feeling guilty about something isn't enough to make you stop doing it. What will make you stop doing something is to recognize it doesn't work. what's going to make you stop doing something is to recognize it's not going to get you what you want. If you want to go out with, if this say I'm a guy and I really want to go out with this girl and she can't stand someone who whistles. So if I whistle, then it's not going to get me what I want. I want to have this relationship with her. If I whistle, then she's not going to want to be with me. So I'm going to stop whistling. Do you know why I'm going to stop whistling? Because it's not going to get me what I want. See, the once you recognize it's not going to get you what you want, that's when you stop doing something. So you got to tell yourself your anger isn't going to get you what you want. Feeling guilty is not going to get you what you want. Feeling sinful is not going to get you what you want. Putting yourself down, judging, condemning, not taking responsibility, seeing yourself as a victim, it's not going to get you what you want. And so that's when you start to deny the existence of those thoughts. That's when you start to deny your ego, because your ego is the part of you that the Course in Miracles just said, it's the part of you that wants you to seek and not find. That's the ego's goal, that you seek love and not find it, that you seek happiness and not find it. It's the part of the mind that when you listen to that part of your mind, when you listen to your ego, when you listen to wrong guidance, then you can tell, because you will feel like you were defeated. You will feel like you did not get what you wanted. That's how you can tell you were listening to the wrong guidance. So how can you tell if when you're listening to the wrong guidance? You don't get what you want. If you were listening to the right guidance, you would get the happiness and the love and the joy that you want. So if you're a person right now, you're unhappy and you're not experiencing the joy and the happiness that you want, you're listening to the wrong voice and you're following the wrong guidance. You're listening to the part of you that wants you to seek and not find. Now, the Course in Miracles says in chapter 12, section 4, paragraph 3 in the Course in Miracles text, it says, it is surely obvious. What's surely obvious? What's surely obvious? It says that no one wants to find what would utterly defeat them. That you don't want to find what's going to defeat you. You don't want to find what's going to defeat you. Okay, so this picture, I'm the ego. Okay, I'm the Earl that's afraid of love. I'm the ego Earl. Okay, ego Earl is afraid of love. Ego Earl believes that love is dangerous. Ego Earl likes to seek after stuff that he never finds. So the Course in Miracles says, when I listen to ego Earl, then I never get what I want and I always feel defeated. So the Course in Miracles says, if I was to realize that listening to my ego was keeping me from getting what I want, then it says, then you would deny your ego and you will let go of your ego and stop listening to your ego when you realize the journey that it has you set on. When you know where your ego is going to lead you, you'll stop listening to it. And the ego always leads to perceived self-defeat. So the ego, that part of you that feels fearful, insecure, angry, guilty, bad, sinful, doesn't think it's enough, doesn't think it's pretty enough, doesn't think it's smart enough, don't think it can really be loved. That part of a person is called the ego. That part of you will always lead you to a perceived self-defeat, because that's the part of the person that doesn't believe that they deserve to be happy. So there's a part of you that thinks you deserve to be happy. The Course says there's a part of you that believes you don't deserve to be happy. There's a part of you that wants you to find love. There's another part of you that wants you to seek love and don't find it. Okay, that's what Spirit is trying to tell us right now. It's just trying to tell us what's really happening. Okay, then it says it's surely obvious that no one wants to find what would utterly defeat him. Being unable to love. So what is the ego? The ego is the part of me that's unable to love. The ego is the part of me that's afraid of love. I'm using myself as an example because I think it's easier for people to hear when it doesn't sound like I'm talking about you. It's because, we always pay attention more to when somebody's talking about somebody else, because one of our favorite pastimes can be, talking about somebody else. So I'm going to do that. So it's surely obvious that no one wants to find what would utterly defeat them. Being unable to love. So the ego is the part of me that's unable to love. It doesn't even know how to respond to love. It's afraid of love. So the part of you that's afraid of love is unable to love. So if you're a person that thinks love is dangerous, if you're a person that thinks you're not lovable, if you're a person who thinks that you are not enough, if you are a person that thinks you're not lovable, then you would be totally inadequate in the presence of love. So that means if love showed up, you wouldn't know how to respond to it. A person who is afraid of love, a person who doesn't know how to love, a person that thinks love is dangerous would be totally inadequate in the presence of love. So, what does it mean to be totally inadequate in the presence of love? It means that you couldn't respond to love. That if a person who really loved showed up in your life, you wouldn't really know how to respond to them. Someone that's afraid of love is someone who can't respond to love. Because when love shows up, the only thing it does is make them feel afraid. Have you ever had somebody be really, really loving to you, and you found that it made you feel afraid, or it made you feel suspicious? That somehow or another the person that was really, really loving, you didn't know how to respond to that person? Or you met somebody and they really, really treated you kind, and they really, really treated you loving, and they were acknowledging you and they were appreciating you, and you found yourself feeling suspicious, or you found yourself feeling afraid, or did you find yourself not being able to respond? That's because the Course in Miracles says that when you have fear and you're operating from your fearful mind, when you're operating from the part of your mind that's forgotten that you're one with everyone, when you're coming from the part of you that doesn't know you are one with everyone, that's the ego, then when love does show up, it couldn't respond to it at all. So it says, then you would have to abandon the ego's guidance. See, the voice that's been guiding me, if love showed up and I couldn't respond to love, then I would have to abandon the guidance that told me that I have to abandon my guidance if when what I'm looking for shows up, and then I realize I can't respond to it. See, a person that's listening to their fear, they wouldn't know how to respond if love showed up, because they wouldn't know how to respond to love. So then they'd have to abandon the guidance of their fear, because it would be quite apparent that their fear hadn't taught them how to respond to love. You see, if I'm listening to my frightening thoughts, if I'm listening to my worldly thoughts, if I'm listening to my thoughts of guilt, and then love shows up, then I wouldn't know how to respond to love. So I'd have to abandon whatever the fearful guidance is that I've been giving myself, because it would become quite apparent that the fearful guidance that I've been giving myself hasn't taught me the response I need. See, but if love shows up in your life, if happiness shows up in your life, but you can't respond to it, then you're going to have to abandon the thinking that you've been using, because you would recognize that the thinking that you've been using has not taught you how to respond to love. Boom. So the part of you that doesn't know how to respond to love, the part of me that doesn't know how to respond to love, my ego will distort love. So how does the ego distort love? How does the person that feels fearful and guilty and insecure, how do they distort love? Well, the Course says what's going to happen, because your ego doesn't know how to respond to love, so your ego is going to distort love. Your ego is going to teach you what? What is it that your ego is going to teach you? What is it that your thoughts of fear are going to teach you? He says, well, your thoughts of fear are going to teach you that love really calls forth the responses the fearful man can teach. So my fearful man is going to teach me that love is going to call for the kind of responses that my fearful mind can teach. For instance, my fearful mind says, if I love somebody, I need to possess them. My fearful mind says, if I love somebody, I need to limit them. My fearful mind says, if I love somebody, then they have to make sacrifices for me, and I have to make sacrifices for them. So notice that my fearful mind is distorting love so that love becomes what my fearful mind can respond to. For instance, the Course in Miracles says love is freedom, that real love is freedom. When you really love someone, you free them. You don't want to limit them. You don't want to restrict them. So when you love someone, you don't want to possess them to the point that they are no longer free. That the Course says that's what love is like. But if I'm fearful, if I'm insecure, then I don't know how to free anybody. I don't know how to be unconditionally loving. I don't know how to forgive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a version of love that I can do as a fearful person. You see, as a fearful person, I can limit you. As a fearful person, I can really want to possess you and have you in every way all to myself. So I'm going to make up that that's what love is, that love is possession, that love is exclusion, that love is limitation. So the Course in Miracles is saying the ego will therefore distort love and teach you that love really calls forth the responses the ego can teach. So if you're listening to the wrong mind, if you're listening to your ego, what happens? What happens when you follow the teachings of the ego? What happens when you follow the teachings of your fearful thoughts, your frightening thoughts? What happens when you follow the teachings of the world? The Course in Miracles says, well, I'll tell you what's going to happen, buddy. You will search for love. You will search for love. A fearful person searches for love. An insecure person searches for love. A person who doesn't believe they're worthy, they still search for love. But you know what happens? When a fearful person is in the presence of love, then they will not recognize love. So a fearful mind will not recognize love. Okay, if you're being really loving, if you are really being loving with a person that's afraid of love, if you're in a relationship with someone that's afraid of love, someone that thinks love is dangerous, then when you're giving them love, they won't even recognize it. When you're being kind and loving and understanding and supportive, they don't even see it. They don't even acknowledge it. They don't even recognize it. Have you ever been with somebody before who never recognized the wonderful, loving things that you were doing for them? That's because they didn't love themselves. And because they didn't love themselves, because they are listening to their ego, they're listening to the part of them that's afraid of love, then they don't recognize love when it's right in their face. That's the way it works. The Course in Miracles is saying, that's just the way it works. That when you're dealing with a person who doesn't know what love is, who's fearful and insecure and doesn't know what love is, if you're loving with a person like that, that person won't recognize it. They won't recognize that you're being loving because they are afraid of love. So they don't even recognize love. That's why the Course in Miracles says nobody can teach you what love is, but the Course in Miracles says you can definitely be taught what love is not. And through being taught what love is not, you'll understand what love is. Love is not full of fear. Love is not full of anger. Love is not full of guilt. Love is not limitation. Love is not lack. Love is not sickness. Love is not loneliness. Love is not attack. Love is not sacrifice. So if you're doing any of those things, you are not experiencing love. If you're with somebody and you're afraid all the time, you're not experiencing love with that person. You are experiencing fear with that person. So therefore, you are experiencing the kind of love that your wrong mind teaches you. And that's what the Course says. When you follow your ego's teaching, when you listen to the part of you that's full of fear and doubt, he says you will search for love, but you will not recognize love. Okay, so what you want to do again, you want to try to just temporarily take all of your brilliant wisdom, set it over to the side, and then go, what is Earl saying? What is the course? Not what is Earl saying? What the Course in Miracles saying? I want to remember what the Course in Miracles is telling me. So the Course in Miracles is telling me there's a part of me that thinks love is dangerous. There's a part of me that has been programmed to seek and do not find. There's a part of me that wouldn't know how to respond to love if it was even right up in my face, because there's a part of me that doesn't love me and doesn't want me to find the love that I'm looking for. How do I know that's true? Because I don't always feel loved. Because sometimes I feel afraid and I feel alone and I feel angry. Or sometimes I feel depressed. Well, whenever you're feeling those things, it means you're listening to your ego. It means you're listening to the wrong voice. It means you're listening to the wrong voice. It means you've been following the wrong guidance. It means you've been thinking things that are not true. When you feel self-defeated, it means you're listening to your ego. When you seek for stuff and you don't find it, that means your ego is behind it. When you seek for things and don't find it, when you seek for love and don't find it, it means you are allowing your ego to guide you. And your ego is the part of you that believes love is dangerous. The ego is the part of you that believes love is dangerous. It's the part that's afraid of love. And so it's going to get you to look for love. It's going to get you, that part of your mind is going to make you seek for love, but you won't find it. And even if you found it, you wouldn't know how to respond to it. Because if you're in your ego, if you're in your fearful mind, then you would be suspicious. You would be insecure. You would be jealous. You would be afraid of losing. So love is freedom. So you couldn't respond to love. Love would frighten you. If I think limiting a person is what's going to make me feel loved, and that person being free is what love really is, then I'm not going to really want to love them. I wouldn't know how to respond to a person who really wanted freedom, because that's what love is. Because I'm in my ego, I'm afraid. And whenever I'm afraid and insecure, then I don't know how to respond to love, which is secure and free. I want you to listen now. I want you to listen. Those of you who are following me in the book, you know that all I'm doing is just saying what's on the page, but I'm saying it in a way that hopefully you can hear it. That you can hear it. So the Course in Miracles is saying to you that that's the first stage of it. Is to recognize. This evening I want you to recognize. I want you to recognize when you're not experiencing the right guidance. I want you to be able to recognize when you're not experiencing love. Because when you're not experiencing love, you can tell, because you feel defeated. You feel like you did not get what you wanted. So when you feel like you are not getting what you want, it's because you're listening to the voice of your ego. You're listening to the voice of the ego, the false self, the part of your thinking that is not true. If you didn't do anything else after this presentation tonight, then to just make the one realization that when you're listening to your ego, when you're listening to guidance that's not coming from God, you feel a sense of self-defeat. So whatever area of your life that you may feel defeated in, that's the area of your life that you're not listening to the Holy Spirit. That's the area of your life that you're not listening to God. That's the area of your life that you're not listening to your right mind. What area in your life is it that you're not listening to your right mind? It's in whatever area of your life that you feel defeated. It's whatever area of your life that you feel dissatisfied with. That's when you're listening to the ego. That's when you're listening to the wrong voice. But your ego, that wrong voice, only exists because your mind gives existence to it. You think the way you think because you keep thinking the way you think. You think the way you think because you keep thinking the way you think. And the way you think is producing what you're seeing. The way you think is producing what you're seeing. The way you think is producing what you're feeling. And so the way you think is either bringing you fear, or the way you think is bringing you love. The way you think is either making you feel successful, the way you think, or either the way you think is making you feel defeated. So the ego is the part of you that doesn't know how to love. And there's a part of a person that seeks for love, but they are afraid to find love. Let me give you a little test. How can you tell when you are afraid of something? How can you tell when you are afraid to have something? How can you tell when you are afraid to have love, for instance? Because you will be trying to get it from where it's not available. If you're trying to get love from a person who doesn't want to give it to you, it means you don't really want love. It means you are afraid of love, because you would have to be afraid of love to be seeking it where it's not located. So if you're with a person or in a situation and you really want love, and you say you want love, but you're with someone who's not appreciating you, someone who's not seeing you for who you really are, someone that's not recognizing the beauty in you, and you are with that person, then it means you don't really want love. You don't really want a person that appreciates you. Because if you really did, you wouldn't be seeking it where it's not located. So the Course is saying to me, well, whenever you're afraid of something, you're going to always look at it where you're guaranteed not to find it. So if you say you're continually trying to get something from someone that doesn't want to give it to you, then the truth is whatever that is you're trying to get, you are afraid to receive. Because if you really wanted it, you wouldn't be trying to get it from someone who doesn't want to give it to you. That's how you know you don't really want it. If you really wanted it, you would be, if I really want water, I'm going to the water fountain. Right? But if I say I want water, but I go to a bookcase, and I keep going to the bookcase, and I'm saying, oh, bookcase, why aren't you producing water? Well, the truth is, I obviously don't really want water, because if I really wanted water, I wouldn't be going where the water isn't located. I'd be going to the water fountain. Well, that's true in every area. There's a part that says, seek the love, but don't find it. Try to get it from somebody that doesn't want to give it to you. That is how you know you are afraid of it. So you need to recognize, I'm afraid of having the things that I do not have, that I say I want to have. Because if I really wanted to have peace, I would go where peace and love is located. And peace and love is located in you. And it's located in love. So again, if you just walk away from this presentation tonight and then realize the difference between when you're following the guidance of your ego and how you feel when you're following the guidance of your ego, you would have made a major leap towards seeking and finding. And this section is very much about how to do that. So that's what we're going through. How do you seek and really find? So I want to thank you for tuning in to this. I'm going to do a quick review right at the end. I want you to know that I'm a full-time teacher, and I do it on a love offering basis. And I would appreciate you sharing if you felt from within yourself that that's what you're moved to do. I would really appreciate it. You can just go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, Purdy, earlpurdy.com. And you can also use Venmo. You can also use Zelle. You can use the Cash App. You can use PayPal. The email address that you need is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm also available for one-on-one counseling, mentoring, and coaching. If you want to take advantage of my 40 years of teaching and learning A Course in Miracles and show you how to apply to the situations that you're dealing with in your life right now in order for you to have some relief and some love, then if it's a situation that you like some support on seeing it another way, then you should book a clarity session with me. I call them clarity sessions. And I've also been an astrologer and numerologist for over 40 years also. And so if you're interested in that or open to that, then I can also give you that messages through that level of insight. My goodness, my goodness, my goodness. I love you and I appreciate this opportunity to be with you. And on Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time on the Facebook, on my Facebook page, the Earl Purdy page is the Facebook page. Then you can also see my 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time Facebook Live class and broadcast also, as well as this Thursdays at 7 p.m. Mountain Time broadcast on the Earl Purdy page. This is what I call hardcore Course in Miracles. I want to dedicate the 7 p.m. on Thursdays. I want to dedicate this class to people who are actually reading and studying the Course in Miracles and want to take advantage of 40 years of me working with this and being obsessed with this so that it can save you time. I can help save you time. And so look at this as a powerful time of study and realization together. Okay, let me see if I thought of anything else. Also, make sure you're on my contact list so I can let you know about the things that I'll be doing. I'm excited. And you can book a clarity session with me on my website. So if you go to my website, it will explain my services in detail, and you can self-book an appointment with me right there on that site. And I'm having a great time with the people that I'm working with and counseling with right now. We're making all kinds of progress because we both want to master this Course in Miracles. And that's what I'm here for. And to let go of those blocks and problems and issues that you know are just distractions that are slowing you down. Okay? So answers are available. So, okay, now, let's go back and do a quick review of what we heard today. I love and appreciate you too. Sure do. Here we go. Because remember, the name of the game is you want to remember. You want to remember. So there's a part of you that believes that love is dangerous, is what the Course in Miracles says. But it doesn't put it that way. There's a part of a person who is afraid of love. That part tells you to search for love. But the part of you that doesn't know what love is, the part of you that's afraid of love, the Course says that part of you will always have you looking for love, but it will have just one little condition, that you don't find it. So the ego is the part of the mind that wants stuff that it never finds, searches for what it never finds. That's the ego. The Course says that's the one promise that your ego is going to keep. Seek and do not find. Seek and do not find. The ego is the part of the mind that's afraid of love. The ego is the part of the mind that feels like it never receives the love that it wants. So when you listen to the guidance of your ego, you can tell when you're listening to the wrong guidance. How can you tell when you're listening to the wrong guidance? You can tell by how you feel. You can tell by how you feel. When you're listening to the wrong guidance, you can tell by how you feel when you're listening to the wrong guidance. The Course in Miracles teaches that God's answer will always bring you some form of peace. Whenever you're listening to the right voice, when you're listening to the right guidance, then you feel some form of peace. That's how you can tell. The ego can't love. The part of a person that believes it's separate from love and believes it's insecure and not enough and believes that it's separate from God, the Course says that part can't love. So when a fearful mind seeks love, it's really seeking what it's afraid of. Now the ego is part of your mind. The Course says the ego is part of your mind. So when I say ego, what am I talking about? A part of your mind. So another term for the ego is a part of your mind. So there's a part of your mind that believes love is dangerous. There's a part of your mind that tells you to seek for stuff that you never find. There's a part of your mind that doesn't know how to respond to love. But the ego is in your mind because you give existence to the ego. All right? So the ego and the fear is only in your mind because you are giving existence to it. So that means what? You have the ability to deny the ego's existence, and you will deny the ego's existence when you realize the journey that your ego is setting you on. When you realize the journey that your fear sets you on, your grievances set you on. When you realize what that part of your mind that doesn't realize your oneness with God. When you realize what that part of your mind, when you realize the journey that it's setting you on, then you are going to deny the existence of the ego. And nobody wants to find what would defeat them. So your ego doesn't know how to love. So it would be inadequate in the presence of love. How can you tell when you're following the wrong voice? You will search for love, but you won't recognize love. So what do I want you to realize? It's time to stop seeking and not finding. It's time to stop seeking and not finding. So you got to be able to tell the difference between when you're listening to the right guidance and when you're listening to the wrong guidance. When you're listening to the wrong guidance, you feel defeated. It looks like you're searching for stuff and you're not finding it. If that's what you are experiencing, then admit to yourself right now, I'm listening to the wrong guidance. And the Course in Miracles teaches me how to tell the difference between right guidance and wrong guidance. That's what the book does. It teaches you how to tell the difference between when you're listening to God and when you're listening to the ego. That's why you want to read the book. That's why you want to study. That's why you want to do the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles. Because you will stop being defeated. You will stop searching for things that you never find, that you know you want. Aren't you tired of that? Well, the Course in Miracles absolutely will teach you how to let go of the blocks to the awareness of love inside yourself. I'm so glad that we had this time together, mighty companion. Listen to this at least 4 times. At least 4 times. And pay attention to your feelings so that you will know when you're listening to your ego. You can tell when you're listening to your ego because you feel fearful, angry, depressed, and you feel defeated in some way. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you don't deserve love. It just means you're listening to the wrong voice. You're just listening to the wrong voice. And the Course is teaching you how the right voice is going to be recognized. And as we move forward in this, we're going to cover this together. Mighty companion, may the Course be with you. Love you. And share this video, please.